everyone, the Gear Headed Hamster here, and today we'll be taking a quick look at Thomas & Friends' Wonders of Sodor. Although, we're going to be taking a bit of a unique look at this game. So, for those who are uninitiated, it's made by the folks of Dovetail Games, who have previously worked on Train Sim World. I played the first version of that game. I really liked it, although, yeah, Dovetail is almost as bad as Microsoft Train Simulator when it comes to DLC. Regardless, when I saw Unlucky Tug mention this game was coming up, I'm like, ooh, I'm hyped. Surprise, surprise, the autistic guy is big obsession with trains, and more specifically, Thomas & Friends. Although, seasons 1 through 7, I didn't really care much for anything after that. But anyway, back to the point. So, I've been a big fan of the original Train Sim World, and I think it was a lot of fun, if a bit disjointed. And let's just say it had a few cracks in the seams. Sometimes literally, which I exploit to fun and profit. And guess what? Wonders of Sodor has the exact same problems. I love it. So, yeah, we're going to be exploring the far lands today, and a little bit of fun out-of-bounds secrets this game has to offer. So, I haven't explored the entirety of the out-of-bounds map, but there's a lot there. Let me show you. So, there's a few cracks in the invisible wall. I know there's at least 2 in Vicarstown. And then I know there's also one in Croven's Gate. I haven't really checked. I didn't find anything along this stretch of track here, although I didn't explore everything. I guess there might be one around Tidmouth Shed or even Knapford. Again, I haven't poked everywhere in the entire map, so there might be hidden gaps I haven't seen yet, but I just want to show Croven's Gate because that's a pretty straightforward one. Alright, so welcome to Explore mode. So, in this mode, you can just kind of freely walk around. If you hit tab, you can spawn a train. Doesn't matter what train. Because we're being devious, let's be Devious Diesel. Spawn you, and then, you know, I can place you wherever. Here's good enough. Oh, actually, one thing which is really funny, and actually I will show you. So, Croven's Gate is the intersection point between the main gauge and the Skarloey narrow gauge line. And guess what? Let's get Percy, the little engine. Yes, you can put full-scale trains on the narrow gauge track. In-game, the narrow gauge is coded as just normal train track with a special 3D model. That's it. So, yeah, full-scale trains do run on it, which is hilarious. Let's see. Here we go. So, yeah. Screech. Anyway, enough of that. Let's start exploring the out-of-bounds section. So, if I hit the 8 key, now we are in... Well, Okay, annoyingly enough, on the one hand, it's nice that you can still control the trains using WASD, but to move the camera about on keyboard, you need to use the arrow keys, which personally I find really awkward, which is why I actually have a controller, and you'll notice that the keys in the bottom right have actually changed to reflect this. And, you know, flying around with the controller is fine enough. It's cool, but if you hit the shift key, you can fly around much faster. And so I have a little block, which I'm going to just rest on the shift key. I'm not sure there is a way to make the camera move faster with the controller itself. Surely there must be, but I've tried every button, I haven't found it yet. Maybe it's just a user error, my bad. Anyway, but yeah, so welcome to Croven's Gate. We got this whole rail yard section and all that. But yeah, so on the ground level, you have these sometimes pretty obvious fences that, fence you in. You're not allowed to go past it. And then sometimes you have, well, here would be an invisible fence, but just on this little ramp section here. Thing is, the collider doesn't affect the the free flying camera, so I can just fly right through it. So you would think, okay, just fly out of bounds, right? Actually, no. There is an invisible wall here as well. Well, shucks. But here's the thing. No offense, I love you, Dovetail, but you're not the best at patching all the gaps. And so if I fly around here, there is a small gap right around here-ish. There we go. If I keep flying into it, yeah, so the best way I find to find it is look at the narrow gauge shed, and it's just around here. Yeah, here it is. So, more or less, line up the camera to, these bushes just by the shed, and just fly backwards until you find the darn thing. Yep, here it is. Flying back and forth through it a few times. Yep. That's a general way I find it. It's not hard, yeah. The thing is, these barriers are two-way, i.e., when you're stuck on the outside, you cannot get back in. Just the same as if you're stuck on the inside, you cannot get back out. This is not true, however, for the ceiling. If you try to fly too high, there's an invisible ceiling that, well, keeps you bounded to the ground. Although, funny enough, in testing I have found that the ground is usually two-way. I have found ways of glitching the camera underground. There's certain bits of geometry that let you fly through the ground. With that said, once you're underground, you can fly freely for the most part. But you cannot fly above ground. Although, if you wedge the camera, let's say, underneath the train tracks or anywhere there's, colliding geometry, you can, glitch your camera back in bounds. Or at least above ground. But yeah, so, welcome to the out of bounds of the island of Sodor. That's a wonderful place. Now, for the most part, around the tracks, it's basically what you expect. We got, a road bridge here, some water, some grass underwater. Oh, I never noticed that before. You got double water. Huh. And so one section of water ends here, and then the upper layer continues onwards. Which, okay. Yeah, some things have collision, some things don't. Which is all fine and good. Here is the narrow gauge line, the Skarloey tracks, which continue onwards. Got some cows, which... surprising level of detail in the texturing of these cows. Okay, that was a choice. Anyway, moving on from those cows, we continue onwards, and surprise, surprise, the landscape becomes a bit more sparse, a bit less populated as you get further away from where you're supposed to be, which, fair enough. But here's a crazy thing. So, here we are in kind of the no man's land, and as you can see, the track goes for a surprising amount of distance before it ends properly. And no, I didn't realize this. There is an end cap to the rail geometry. Huh. Okay. On the turntable, I noticed that this end cap was missing. I find it surprising it's here on this narrow gauge section of rail as well. Well, not as well, but it's actually here. Anyway, so yeah, if I fly up a little bit, you can see over there the trees is basically where the inbounds is, the edge of the world. Well, visible part of the world. And then on the opposite side, we have well, all of this. And actually, something I'm going to do, if I hit the 9 key, we have the locomotive there, and, let's see, can I, set path? I'm going to set path to there. That did not work. Okay. 1 second, please. Alright, so what I did is something really simple. I got back into Diesel and I just set a path to right there. Just as a little marker, because we're going to fly very, very far away, and it's nice to have some sort of orientation, some way to know which way is back in bounds and which way is away from bounds. Anyway, so, right. Now we just have to find the seam again. There you are. And away we go. So something you may have noticed, just driving your trains about, riding Gordon on the express, you may have looked out the passenger side window and noticed these tall mountains spanning the background, and like, fair enough, Island of Sodor is a pretty mountainous landscape and all that, like, that's all pretty cool and all that. What you may have not realized is just how far they really are. Like, so I'm traveling with the shift key enabled, and you can see, like, the thing on the right, the UI, going a bit buggy, because I'm doing both keyboard and controller inputs at the same time, and the UI has no idea what it's supposed to be doing, so, whatever. I can forgive little glitches like that. But yeah, so here we are at the mountain, or at least the nearest mountain to, that's where we were before. And as you can see, at this point, no more collision. I can just fly right through the ground. In fact, I think the collision stopped somewhere back there, give or take. I haven't tested it entirely, but yeah, so, yeah, you got these, like, mountainous terrains. They're even partially textured, which is kind of interesting. I'm guessing it was automatically textured, where anything flat is grass and everything hilly, like steep hill, is, like, rock with a dirt transition layer. Because I can't imagine somebody actually goes in and, spends the time to, texture all of this. Sorry, I'll try to keep above ground. But, yeah, like, check this out. Like, this whole mountain range here is all of this is 3D geometry. Like, all of this. Yeah, it's crazy. And, well, that's not even the craziest part, because look at this. Like, we are now getting pretty far away from where the actual train line is. Like, the player will never come out this far. Unless you're like me. But, like, yeah, like, sure, you can see the mountains in the horizon. Big whoop. Like, I think, I like that Island of Sodor is a mountainous place, and you can see the mountains in the horizon, but you got valleys and then more mountains behind that. Like, you're never going to see these, like, secondary mountains because the first ones block your view. But they modeled this. They modeled all of these mountain ranges. And then we got this. This is a giant forest floating in the sky. Yeah, I have no idea either. I mean, I've heard of the legend of, like, a castle floating in the clouds, but never one of a floating forest. Henry, eat your heart out. As we get closer and the frame rate starts to chop, but we can see, yeah, they're fully modeled 3D tree assets. Hundreds of them. No, thousands of them. All over the place. None of them have collision, and they are more or less copy-pasted of, same handful of tree models hundreds of times over. But yeah, there's even grass and foliage and, little plant life. It's like, this is entire forest floor, all 3D modeled and rendered way out here in the far lands, and all floating in the sky as well. Like, again, we came from way over there. I know it says 78 meters, that's just how far my locomotive is from the checkpoint, but in truth, I have no idea where exactly I am on the map. And if it looks like we've flown over the void, well, we haven't. It's actually just fog. If I fly straight down, you should be able to see the terrain reappear. There it is. Yeah, so the landscape is still there. It's just the sort of fogginess of the world obscures it. But yeah, so remember, we came from there, so let's continue traveling this way. So yeah, kind of following the grid of the trees, and yeah, the trees even cast shadows on the terrain below them, which is wild. Like, I genuinely have no idea why this exists, and these shadows are real as well. Like, if I fly up and just wait for a second, like, if I look at one shadow, you can see the shadow on the right is moving with, like, the swaying of the leaves, and there we go, it popped. That means that, it's following the motion of the sun, that as the time of day progresses, the shadows move. So, yeah, these are not, like, baked-in textures and anything. No, these are actual shadows from the sky trees, which boggles my mind why this even exists. Like, yeah, it is something. Now, again, we got more hills and a big valley here. Like, again, no one will ever see this side of the mountain. Why? Why model all of this? I sort of know the reason. From what I understand, like, they 3D modeled or, like, took reference scans of Wilbur Awdry's map in his study. And so, they built this huge relief map based on it. And I guess it is future planning for when they make DLCs for this game. And it's like, okay, now you at least have the basic, like, terrain profile already made. So you don't have to worry too much about that. And you just have to populate it. But yeah, like, again, it still keeps going. Like, like, I'm kind of following the sort of straight edges of the trees as a general idea of, like, orientation. Like, again, we came from way back there. We're way out here now. And hopefully I did find something really interesting way at the edge of the world. I wonder if I'll find it again. I don't know if I'm following the exact same path as I did last time, but we'll see. Yeah. If anyone knows or has any idea why we have a giant floating forest, let me know. I'm genuinely curious. My best guess is that this game runs in chunks, like, similar to how Minecraft, has 16 by 16 by, world height chunks. I'm guessing this game also has invisible chunks, and each chunk is, like, from way over there to way over here, or, like, from here to there. Like this is one square chunk here. And I'm, like, just my guess is that, there's, like, a default, like, 0 offset for the trees, and so some chunks are just default to be forest chunks or whatever, and, it's like, okay, and the developers didn't bother to modify anything way out here, because why would they? That's just a guess, and I don't know, and I'm guessing, obviously the terrain mapping follows a different rule set, because they are more continuous. They don't follow the same chunk logic that, this Sky Forest is. But we are actually approaching the very edge of the world now. We have finally finally reached the edge. Or, well, so it may seem. Because, guess what? There is a second edge. Dun dun dun! Yeah. Way out here, we have the edge of the world. Well, one edge of the world. The Sky Forest is still ever present, but then down here, we have another bit of terrain. And if we fly down, same grass as before. Here's the other crazy thing. This is shadow from, well, you can't see it now, but the terrain we just flew up from is casting a shadow on this lower terrain. Okay, that's interesting. And yeah, I've not gone that way yet. But yeah, there's this weird hill here. Yes, this is where I was last time. As far as I can tell, I believe this is the true edge of the map. Like, I did try to fly down into the void for a while, and I didn't find anything too interesting down there, so... I mean, I could be wrong, maybe there's something down there, but... yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the true edge of the world. Exactly where we are in relationship to, like, the railroad map, like... I don't know. I'd be very curious to find out, though. Actually, I do have an idea. Let me explore a little bit more, and then I can test the idea out later in case I break something. I don't want to have to fly all the way back out here. But yeah, so here we have this weird step, like from the terrain up there down to here. And then we have a bit of a hill, and a bit of geometry that doesn't quite know what it wants to be. Like, it's... feels almost like, you know, a rounding error. But, yeah, so we got that little, like, spiky diagonal, which is interesting. And as we come up to this hill, we see way up here, there's also this, like, broken bit of terrain as well. Like, if we come up to the top of it, we quickly see that it's a giant flat plateau. But, while the center is flat, right at the very edge, we got this bumpy, rough terrain, like water's been carved into it, or something. Like, yeah, we got a bunch of these little, like, delta fingers all over the place. And I tried staring at it for a while. I'm not 100% sure if this is a repeating pattern, or... if it's, like, you know, random noise, like, you know, they put an algorithm to work and it creates this, like, random, like, pattern to it. I'm not sure. If it is repeating, I haven't quite found the pattern yet. Like, for example, we had a bunch of small ones, and then here we have a pretty massive, almost delta-like bit. Like, you know, a river delta where, you know, it branches out into these, like, thin little fingers, which... I think it's really cool, really interesting. Yeah, like, again, who would know about all this? I think this is really cool. Like, again, credit to Dovetail. I think they did a fantastic job of the main railway. Like, as many people, Unlucky Tug included, points out that, you know, they spent a lot of time meticulously creating the main rail network. You know, very faithfully to the canon of Thomas and Friends, and, you know, kind of a not hodgepodge, but, like, kind of a blend between the three canons. You got the book series, the model series, and the CGI series. Oh yeah, that lower thing just kind of ends, but reappears there. Yep, still has the Sky Forest. But yeah, so, like, credit where credit's due. The inbound stuff is really good and really well made, but I don't know, I find this out-of-bounds stuff just utterly fascinating. Like, why? Why does all this exist? Like, is this preparing for something? Is this an oversight? I mean, I kind of is, but, like, it's a really fascinating oversight. Here's another, like, large delta thing again, and again, I'm not sure if that is the same as what we explored just over there, so it might be a repeating pattern. More investigation will be needed, but yeah. But yeah, here's another one that is not too far away from that one, but that furthest one we explored was on its own, I think. So again, I'm not 100% sure if this is randomized or repeating, but regardless. So yeah, continuing onwards. Again, another interesting like hill followed by a step. And then that will be our destination for right now. Just on the other side of this, we get, I would say, the last major landmark, at least on the north side of the island, as far as I have seen, is right here. Here we have texture not found, which I find equally fascinating. Like, up to this point, everything over that way has either been grass, stone, or dirt, which, again, as I suspected, is probably like programmatically figured out based on the angle of the terrain. Here, nope. It is kind of a generic default grid texture. We even see like a smaller grid in the grid. And then, whoop, we see this grainy texture at the smallest scale, which I think is interesting. Like, why is there like this really tiny, like, pixely grain to it? Like, the original texture file for this must have noise to it, which, for like a default, like, generic texture, I guess? I don't know, I would expect it to be like a perfect, clean square that, you know, doesn't have any noise data, but maybe it's useful for something. Maybe it's useful for, like, rendering or testing or seeing if there's bugs or whatever. But, yeah. And so, here we are, basically at the end of the world. I don't know how far this goes, but yeah. So yeah, flying back up a little. Unfortunately, the fog makes it really hard to get a very good, like, aerial view of the entire universe. I did mess around in the settings. I tried to turn the fog off. There goes all the shadows, which, that's a little trippy. But yeah, as you can see, like, the fog slowly obscures things. Like, I believe that is a edge of the world right there, that everything beyond that is just void. But yeah, we are pretty far north at this point, and yeah. Oh. Sorry, I turned the shift key off to, yeah. As you can see, as we fly up very quickly, the terrain kind of just gets lost to the, you know, ambient fog of the atmosphere, which is mildly annoying. Again, I tried turning this off in settings. I couldn't find any good setting that, like, turns it all off. If there is a setting, let me know. But, yeah. So one thing I quickly want to test, so I'm going to put my marker right here. So actually, let me do something. So if I fly down, let's use the corner of this as a reference. So here we have the corner of the terrain, and yeah, something like that. Okay, so now we can see that Crosby is directly that direction. If I hit 9, we get map view. Don't worry, if I hit 9 again, we're back here. But if we hit 9 and we say remove path, confirm, and then we hit 9 again, let's see where the other landmarks are. By, say, Sorry. Set path. Where is Tidmouth Shed from here? Let's say Tidmouth Siding. Confirm. And the game crashed. Well, what you know? Wah, wah. Well, darn. Okay, so the idea was that what I wanted to do is, if I knew the angle where Croven's Gate was, and if I knew roughly how far away, like the angle that Tidmouth Shed was, I could roughly gauge how far north I was on the map. Like, if the angle was really wide, that would mean that I would be pretty far south and, kind of in, quote, the middle of Island of Sodor. But if the angle was pretty narrow, it would mean I had passed really far north on the Island of Sodor. But yeah. Alright, before we close things out, let's just quickly explore the south side of Sodor. Alright, so, again, starting from Croven's Gate, to get south, we're gonna have to do a little bit fancier of a trick, because, like I said, there are invisible walls there and there, so, let's see, spawn train, diesel, light loco, yes, whatever. Alright. Right, so here we are again. Here's diesel. Now, as far as I can tell, I haven't found any gaps in the seam around Croven's Gate on the south side. So, in order to actually get south, I'm gonna have to get a little bit more creative. Yeah. Like, yeah, just to demonstrate, like, there's not an easy way of getting south from here. I could be wrong again, like, maybe a glitch hunter will find a seam I have overlooked, which, all fairness, like, cool, good for them, I highly encourage this, but yeah. So, now we have found the seam again, and now we just kind of have to find a hole in the floor. Eventually, the geometry... Oh, yes. One other quick thing, if I hit 9, set path to there. Okay, so yeah, now we just have a marker, just so we have some idea of orientation. And so yeah, now my goal is just to fly forwards, hugging the floor until, well, the hitbox of the floor just ends. Yeah, to think that the hitbox is still functioning way out here. There we go. Now we are under the map. And now we can fly back towards the map. So again, if I fly up, we'll see that we kind of hit an invisible ceiling. Well, okay, mostly visible ceiling. Slightly invisible. But yeah, so like I said, the floor again is two-way, mostly, where you bump up into it and it will collide you. But if you press your face up against it hard enough, you might bump up in bounds again. You might glitch through the floor back into bounds. So I'm going to play it safe and just kind of explore down fairly far below the map so I don't accidentally bump into it. On a side note, seeing the railway from underneath is actually pretty cool. I'm going to explore that for a brief second just to show you guys. I think it is a little bit trippy. It is a little weird seeing, like, all the terrain from, like, below. Like, so here we are back at the platform. That's the main station. And here we can see all the rails. Here is Diesel from below, if you were curious. The lighting's not great. I'm sorry, guys. Diesel actually does have a set of cranks underneath him, which is bizarre, but okay, whatever. Okay, one thing the train nerd in me absolutely is furious about, how dare they. The crank clocking on the wheels are 0 degrees. Like, that is dead straight up. And it's hard to see, but that is also dead straight up. Like, they should be 90 degrees out of phase with each other. How dare they goof this one up? Whatever. But yeah, so that's the station. Let's show you some of the switching, because I think that's just really fun and weird seeing all of these like track sections underneath. And for fun, here's a narrow gauge. Again, I'm trying to make sure I don't bonk my head on anything, because I don't want to accidentally, you know, pop back inbound, so I'm just being careful. Here is my marker from below. Pretty cool. And then, well, now we can fly. Oh yeah, by the way, so the invisible wall also extends below the map a little bit. Simple solution, we just kind of fly down and below it. And voila, now we are out of bounds both vertically and horizontally on the south side of the railway. So I could explore the town a little bit from down here, and I guess there's a few interesting things to see, like, you know, these hedges and like this bit of geometry kind of merging into the ground, which I think is kind of neat. And, you know, we got the town, but let's go back above ground. Let's see. Where's a good place to it? Something like this. Come on. There we go. And now we are back vertically in bounds, but horizontally out of bounds. And just to show, I can fly to, like, the railway, and I hit an invisible wall. Like I said, the walls are two-way, so, you know, you can be stuck inside or stuck outside. And yeah, so here's what the town of Croven's Gate looks like for those curious. It's nothing too fancy, but, you know, the fact that they modeled all of this and, you know, put a bunch of buildings back here is pretty neat. I do like that. Okay, I got worried for a second there. I'm like, uh-oh, no. And then, okay, there are a couple of invisible walls in the city for reasons. And then there's a forest here. And if I remember correctly, I'll admit, I haven't explored south of Croven's Gate itself. I have explored the south where rivers are, and fun fact, they actually do go into a sea. Like, okay, so here's a river. Yeah, this is a river from that bridge we saw earlier. Now, I'm not sure if there's a sea around here. There might be. We see more, like, flying forests. Fast forward to something interesting. Okay, so here's a large delta where the sea supposedly should be. But, well, no water. Go figure. I'll admit, I have not been back here before, but yeah, looks like more of the same thing type of thing. And yeah, so something else I find really interesting, which I didn't mention earlier, but yeah, there is an invisible ceiling, as we saw, but the ceiling actually works very differently from the invisible floor, the visible floor, or even the invisible walls, where the ceiling is one way as a pusher, where if you fly into the side of it, no matter how high up you are, I haven't tested if there's an upper limit, but I've noticed that if you even fly really high up, as soon as you touch the side of the ceiling will force you all the way down to the top of the ceiling. And which is annoying. It's like you fly all the way up and it just snaps you all the way back down. But yeah, unfortunately, it looks like this is the end of the map, apparently. Go figure. Okay, let me just show you Vickerstown very quickly, and then we'll wrap things up, alright? Alright, same thing as before. Let's just spawn. It literally doesn't matter what engine. I'm just using diesel because I feel very devious right now. Alright. So, right, welcome to Vickerstown Station. And honestly, I think Vickerstown is such an interesting location in the Thomas universe where we never saw it in the model series, but my god, does it look grandiose in the CGI series where, like, you got these massive brickwork viaducts that lead into the station. Like, it feels very Victorian-esque, honestly. Like, I love this. Like, if anyone's ever played Assassin's Creed Syndicate, like, it reminded me a little bit of that, where you had this massive, like, brickwork viaduct elevated rail above the town below. Like, that's just awesome. And then you got, like, the town, like, the station hall down here. Sadly, there's no, like, in-game way to get to the station hall. Like, inside you have these tunnels. I'm getting distracted, but yeah. Inside you have these tunnels, there's, like, network of tubes that lead to each platform. And that's fine enough, but I kind of wish there was a suggestion to how you can get to the ticket booth. Because, as far as I can tell, there's no actual way to get to a ticket booth. Like, even something like, you know, a doorway here that leads to a hallway that, you know, the camera cannot get to. Like, at least a suggestion of where the passengers come from would have been nice, but, oh, nitpick. Anyway, what we are looking for is a yard, which I believe is this way, I think? No, sorry, wrong way. I got turned around. It is this way. Lovely little river here. Big pond. And yeah. So here is the yard. And, well, I think it's a nice little yard. Very cute. What I'm more interested in is right back here we have this brick wall, which obviously the player can't go through. And then beyond it we have, well, an invisible wall. Well, what a shame. If only there was a conveniently placed gap where we can sneak right through. Hey look! A conveniently placed gap! How convenient. And yeah, and now we are out of bounds. So, first thing first, let's just go right to the end of the railway. You know, why the heck not? We are out of bounds. And so here's Vickerstown Bridge. Now we can't get too close to it because we are out of bounds, but what we can do is... there's another wall there. Fun enough, more walls here, but... here we are. Now we are on the wrong side of the bridge. We are on the mainland side. And if we continue going this way, we'll eventually reach the end of the line. Still a bunch of, like, forests and fields and whatnot, but yeah. And here's the end of the line. It just kind of sinks into the ground. I'm not sure how long... Now I'm curious, do the tracks continue underground for a while? More forest. Okay, now I'm curious. I want to know how far the tracks actually go. Alright, so I found a seam underground, and so now I am back under the map again. And I believe these are the tracks here. Yes. I believe this is still the above ground portion of the track that was visible. And so... okay, so this is where the tracks officially go underground. But they continue on for a ways. How far did they go? Well, there's the edge of the foliage. And, well, the tracks continue onwards. Magic Railroad, anyone? A hidden railway under the map? Where's Lady when you need her? And, well, there they are, the end of the tracks. Because they're underground, they're in shadow, so the lighting is not great, and I need to know. Well, what do you know? The very end of the rail actually has a surface. I'm genuinely surprised by that. I was expecting this surface not to exist for me to be able to like see through the rail, but nope, they actually modeled the edge, like the actual end of the rail, which is okay, cool. Now part of me wonders if there's a bunch of like hidden rail like ends inside the rail itself. I don't know, but anyway, right. Back to Vicarstown. Alright, before we actually get to Vicarstown, let me show you the ocean, but first, let's get back above ground. And loop. Yeah, like I said, popping up above, like where train tracks are, is really easy. I don't know what it is, but yeah, train tracks let you just pop up through the ground very easily. But yeah, so here we are at the edge of the map. And, well, heading south, we got this river. And, well, a nice little island here as well. Oh, it's not an island. Okay, it's just a little, like, cove. Some farmland. And the sea. Yes, sirree, Bob. There actually is a sea. Or is it ocean? I'm not super familiar with that part of the geography. But anyway, regardless, so yeah. Here we have, a large body of water, which, yeah. Again, like, this is a part that the player will never, ever see, but the fact that it is here, I think is absolutely fascinating. And what is that? I have not seen that before. And where'd the water go? Okay, interesting. So I get close to the water, and the water disappears. Huh. Okay, so here's a water texture, nice up and close. Which, I mean, it's decent. It's nothing amazing, but nothing awful either. Yeah, as soon as I get far away, the water disappears. Now, what is this? Oh, that! That is interesting. It's more checkerboard texturing with plant life down here. Shrubs and leaves and whatnot, but no grass and no trees. Very odd, very bizarre. And of course, we got the ubiquitous flying forest. And I'm guessing this is the edge of the world. Yep. This is the edge of the world. Doesn't look like there's anything down in the void. So, alright. Time to take the quick way back. Hello, Diesel. Alright, so we are back at Vicarstown Station. And, yeah, the last thing I want to show you, just to close things off, just because I think it's fun, I'm just going to show you Vicarstown itself, which I know the unlucky Tug was a little disappointed not being able to explore the entirety of Vicarstown. So, this one's for you, Tug. So, yeah. Got a smokestack, some factory buildings. Can I fly through this? No, I cannot. Interesting that some buildings have collision, like this house, but then, like, this apartment doesn't. Which, okay. There's the station. Unfortunately, I can't fly up any higher. I can't really get an overview of the town. We got this lovely church here, which I think is really nice. Do they have any detail on the windows? A little bit. No, like, doesn't look like they have any stained glass. Bit of a shame, but oh well. Yeah, lovely little place of worship. Some old housing here. Couple of other interesting buildings. A soccer field. That's nice. Side note, I love the soccer field by Farquhar. Farquhar Station. If you know, you know. That's hilarious. I love that as an Easter egg. But yeah, I think this is where I'm gonna end it here. There's more mountains, but I think we've already explored basically everything that I've wanted to show off thus far. I'm sure there's going to be more discoveries as the game goes on, and people poke around and explore. But yeah, this is just something I wanted to show everyone because I think it's really fascinating. Like, who would have thought that one, the map would extend so freakishly far in both directions, both south and north. Obviously, more so north than south, but still, that is really impressive that it's just so big. Like, I genuinely was not expecting it to be this gigantic. And then the other thing is, of course, the flying forest, which I think is such a bizarre out of bounds oversight, which I've heard of, flying cubes that, are used as, test assets, or sometimes 3D models are left floating in space as, somebody forgot them there. But for entire forests to be fully, modeled and, there's lots of plant life and all that, obviously it was generated, it wasn't hand-placed there, but, yeah, and, this road keeps going as well, who made this road? This is way beyond the bounds of the actual map, so... And a stone wall? Actually, or is it curving back towards the track? Maybe it's curving back to the tracks? I'm not sure. Because it's getting more detailed again. And, okay, yes, we are at... Sorry, I got turned around. That's neat. The road, went away from the tracks and then came back to the tracks. And we are on... Oh, what was the station called? We are somewhere here, I believe. Somewhere around here. What is this? Ballyhoo, thank you. Ballyhoo Station. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, just wanted to show this off. I think it's really neat, and hope you guys like it too. Anyway, this has been the Gear Headed Hamster signing off, and, ain't it great to be an engine? Take care, folks!